Hey, sixth graders. Because we had a little hiccup a couple weeks ago when I forgot to upload the correct lesson for you, we're just finishing up our chapter on the Earth, Moon, and Sun. So that's chapter 6. So a review here, and then it will be the test on and model for your assignment. So, and that's not too far. Okay, so vocab. First we have satellite. Any object that orbits around another object in space. A planet is an object that orbits a star, is large enough to become rounded by its own gravity, and has cleared the area of its orbit. A meteor is a streak of light in the sky produced by the burning of a meteoroid in Earth's atmosphere. A comet, a loose collection of ice and dust that orbits the sun, typically in a long, narrow orbit. Star is a ball of hot gas, primarily hydrogen and helium, that undergoes nuclear fusion. A constellation is a pattern or grouping of stars that people imagine to represent a figure or object. Axis is an imaginary line that passes through a planet's center and its north and south poles, about which the planet rotates. Rotation is the spinning motion of a planet on its axis. Revolution, the movement of an object around another object. Orbit is the path of an object as it revolves around another object in space. Sorry, I have something in my eye. Calendar is a system of organizing time that defines the beginning, length, and divisions of a year. Solstice, either of the 2 days of the year on which the sun reaches its greatest distance, north or south of the equator. An equinox, either of the 2 days of the year on which neither hemisphere is tilted toward or away from the sun. So that's our 4 seasons. First day of spring, summer, fall, and winter. A force is a push or pull exerted on an object. Gravity is the attractive force between objects. Law of universal gravitation is a scientific law that states that every object in the universe attracts every other object. Mass is a measure of how much matter is in an object. Weight, a measure of the force of gravity acting on an object. Inertia, the tendency of an object to resist a change in motion. Newton's first law of motion is the scientific law that states that an object at rest will stay at rest and an object in motion will stay in motion with a constant speed and direction unless acted on by a force. Phases, one of the different apparent shapes of the moon as seen from Earth. Eclipse is the partial or total blocking of one object in space by another. A solar eclipse is the blocking of sunlight to Earth that occurs when the moon is directly between the sun and Earth. Umbra is the darkest part of a shadow. Penumbra, the part of a shadow surrounding the darkest part. Lunar eclipse is the blocking of sunlight to the moon that occurs when Earth is directly between the sun and the moon. Tides, the periodic rise and fall of the level of water in the ocean. Spring tide is the tide with the greatest difference between consecutive low and high tides. Neap tide, the tide with the least difference between consecutive low and high tides. We're almost done with vocab. There's 3 sections of matching with the vocab on your test, but there is just one matching that has the spring and neap tide. So those are your only 2 ones. You're matching which is which. Maria is a dark flat area on the moon's surface formed from huge ancient lava flows. Craters are a large round pit caused by the impact of a meteoroid. Meteoroids are a chunk of rock or dust in space, generally smaller than an asteroid. From lesson 1, on a clear night you may see stars, the moon, planets, meteors, and comets. That is on your assignment as a fill-in-the-blank with options. A constellation is a pattern or group of stars that people imagine to represent a figure, animal, or object. The apparent motion of objects in the sky depends on the motion of the Earth. That is a true-false question. Stars generally appear to move from east to west throughout the night. The sun's apparent motion during the day is also because of Earth's motion. Lesson 2, Earth moves in space in 2 major ways, rotation and revolution. Earth has seasons because its axis is tilted as it revolves around the sun. That's a true-false question. The Egyptian, then the Roman, then the Gregorian calendars each change slightly from the previous, but the Gregorian is pretty much what we use today. It's the closest one. That is also on your assignment. Northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere. So when it's winter in this northern hemisphere, it's summer in the southern hemisphere. When it's summer in the northern hemisphere, it's winter in the southern hemisphere. That is on there as a true-false question also. Lesson 3, the strength of the force of gravity between two objects depends on two factors, the masses of the objects and the distance between them. Newton concluded that Earth and Earth's sun gravity combined to keep Earth in orbit around the sun and the moon in orbit around Earth. I believe that's on there as a true-false question. I cannot remember 100%. The changing relative positions of the moon, Earth, and sun cause the phases of the moon. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon passes directly between Earth and the sun, blocking sunlight from Earth. The moon's shadow then hits Earth. During a lunar eclipse, Earth blocks sunlight from reaching the moon. Lunar eclipses occur only when there is a full moon because the moon is closest to Earth's shadow at that time. Both of those are on there as a fill-in-the-blank with multiple choice options. About 29.5 days after the last new moon, a new moon occurs. Lesson 5, tides are caused mainly by difference in how much gravity from the moon and the sun pulls on different parts of Earth. Changes in the positions of Earth, the moon, and the sun affect the heights of the tides during a month. So during a new moon, the sun, the moon, and Earth are nearly in a line. First quarter moon, the line between Earth and the sun is at right angles to the moon. A full moon, the moon, and the sun are on opposite sides of Earth, and the third quarter, a moon, a neap tide happens because the moon is just on the opposite side of Earth. So basically the opposite of first quarter. And last but not least, lesson 6, the moon is dry and airless and has an irregular surface. Compared to Earth, the moon is small and has large variations in its surface temperature. Size and density is 3,476 kilometers across, which is a little less than the distance across the US. 1/80th the mass of Earth, which is on your test. Temperature, moon's equator temperatures range from 130 degrees Celsius to negative 170 degrees Celsius. Temperatures at the poles are even colder. Temperatures vary so much because there is no atmosphere. There's a question about the atmosphere, true, false. And then there's a question about the water, true, false. So water, there is a thin layer of water that exists in the soil. Total amount is small, but is found in many places on the surface. Okay, that was a lot. Please go back and review anything else that you might need to. And when you're ready, complete the questions for the Chapter 6 test. Please let me know if you have any questions or if something goes wrong. And have a wonderful day.